It's election season, and you know what that means? A lot of idle speculation. I have absolutely no idea who President Trump is going to pick for his running mate, but that is not going to stop me from talking about it. And that's true of most political pundits, commentators, and strategists, and really everything else, because Trump's going to do whatever he wants to do, and he's one of the least predictable people in politics. Anyway, Vegas at least has some odds, so we can talk about them. I can give my best Nostradamus prognostication, which will probably just be wrong, because who knows? You can't figure out what Trump's going to do. Top of the list, he's got plus 194 right now, according to Odds Checker, is Doug Burgum. That was kind of surprising to me. I thought top of the list would be J.D. Vance right now, or Tim Scott even maybe, but it's Burgum. Burgum, I guess because Vegas thinks Trump is going to pick a wallflower. There's no knock on Burgum. He had a good business career. He seems to have had a perfectly fine North Dakota governor career, but he's totally inoffensive, smart when it comes to finance and the economy, kind of a social liberal, but he could at least say, all right, federal government's going to stay out, states do whatever you want, which I guess is sort of Trump's view anyway. So I get it. If Trump wants someone like Mike Pence, in as much as Mike Pence doesn't steal the spotlight, he's going to go for Burgum. Number two is J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, I thought, maybe has a little more advantage because the base likes J.D. Vance. He's not only conservative, but he's conservative in the new kind of conservative way, which is really the old kind of conservative way, but he's conservative in the spirit of 2024. There were some candidates who are still babbling talking points from 2010 or 2011, and it's just not working anymore. And so J.D. Vance, on important issues like trade, on issues like immigration, on issues like foreign wars and foreign involvement, Vance is with the new right, a term that crops up every 20 years or so, but the new right, the newest right, and so is Trump. And so this pits them against the neoconservatives. It pits them against the totally, isolationist, libertarian, thisism, thatism. They're very aligned on those kinds of issues. Vance maybe is a little to the right of Trump, but maybe that's not bad. If Trump wants a VP like Mike Pence, in as much as Mike Pence was a solid social conservative, J.D. Vance actually checks that box. So in both of those top picks, you're seeing pretty much the two sides of Pence, who was, I think, a smart VP pick for Trump in 2016, assuage the concerns of certain evangelicals and other Christians and social conservatives. And obviously what wasn't going to be Pence this time because the two guys hate each other. But okay, I see the two. The duality of man. Which way, Western man? Which way, Mr. Trump? Number three, Ben Carson. That one's kind of interesting. I would be over the moon if Ben Carson were the VP. I think that would be absolutely terrific. One of the sharpest guys in the country, one of the sharpest, I guess, he's got gifted hands. He famously said during his presidential primary debate of his own, he said the thing he was proudest of was separating conjoined twins at the head. Everyone else said, I got some tax bill passed, whatever. He said, yeah, I separated conjoined twins at the head because I'm much more qualified and intelligent than all of you. So he's got that. And he's also, on important political issues, he's probably to the right of pretty much any other Republican out there. So to me, I think he's terrific. If you care about identity politics, the fact that he's a black guy, I guess, doesn't hurt, at least with independent or center-left, moderate kind of voters. Next one up, Marco Rubio. Rubio could work. I see that too, in the sense that there have been a few iterations of Marco Rubio. He's been in politics for a long time, but Rubio has shown himself inclined toward a kind of common good conservatism, that new right spirit of, hey, the government isn't going to be totally out of your lives, and the government isn't going to spend all of its time bombing countries overseas. The government might actually work on things like encouraging stable families or keeping jobs here in America and focusing on the American worker. So Rubio's leaned into that recently. Could be a good fit. Tim Scott is politically probably much more moderate than I guess any of those guys, probably including Rubio, and maybe he's on par with Burgum. He maybe on the social issues, he maybe is a little bit to the right of Burgum. But Tim Scott, very inoffensive, centrist, moderate pick. He would satisfy the identity politics thing if you wanted to have a black guy on the ticket. He's a good guy, nice guy. Every time I've interacted with him, I think he's terrific. I don't know that he adds a ton to the ticket. Here, Burgum, who cares? You're going to get North Dakota. You don't need to worry about that. J.D. Vance, Republicans are almost certainly going to get Ohio. Used to be, as goes Ohio, so goes the nation. So now I think Ohio is pretty solidly red. But in any case, maybe Vance helps bring it along a little bit. Ben Carson is not, the governor of a state or a senator. Rubio poses another problem in that the president and the vice president can't both reside in the same state as a practical matter, following the electoral process laid out in the Constitution. So you could work it. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were both in Texas. Cheney changed his residence to Wyoming and then, was able to serve as VP. So you could do something like that here and maybe say Trump changes his residence to New York. The problem with that is Trump is being prosecuted in New York right now, so I don't know that he wants to make himself a full-time resident of that state. In any case, those are the top 5. Then you get into the absolute favorite pick for X and for social media and for a lot of Zoomers and millennials. That is my friend Vivek Ramaswamy. That would be terrific. From everything I've read, I'm not sure that seems the most likely scenario. Vegas puts him at plus 1,600. And on top of that, Vivek, one of his great strengths is he's a superstar. The guy's just a star, but that might cut against him in the VP race in that a lot of people don't think that Trump is going to pick a guy who will take up a lot of the spotlight. So I don't know. It'd be cool if it were Vivek. I don't know that I'd put my money on it, but it'd be great. Then you get Glenn Youngkin. Okay, moderate Republican, but maybe a good choice. He won in a blue state. Blue Commonwealth. Byron Donalds. I think Byron would be terrific. Elise Stefanik, a New York Republican. She's been very loyal to the Trump side. I don't know that she brings a ton of votes. She certainly doesn't bring New York. Tulsi, okay, now we're getting into real dark horse stuff. I just don't think you can have a person who was very recently a Democrat become the VP. Sarah Sanders. Now, this one is really interesting to me. Sarah Sanders, loyal press secretary for Trump in the White House, is just excellent. Was an excellent member of his administration. Left on good terms, stayed on good terms, became the governor of Arkansas. Brings in a lot of that evangelical support that might be somewhat up in the air. I don't know. Trump won the evangelical support in 2016. He kept it in 2020. This would help buttress that a little bit. And in the same way Mike Pence did. She is terrific. That would be amazing. Right now, text Knowles to 989898. This truth bomb is so heavy. Saudi Arabia recently ended its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. That has the potential to weaken the U.S. dollar. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in U.S. dollars. This was huge for our global economic dominance. Now, they want other options. If there is less demand for the U.S. dollar, what happens to its value? It's for reasons like this that I think it's important to diversify some of your savings into gold. You can do that now with the help of Birch Gold. Right now, qualifying purchases by July 31st are eligible to get a one-of-a-kind, limited edition Golden Truth Bomb. The only way to claim your eligibility is by texting Knowles, KNWLES, to 989898. Protect your savings and diversify away from the U.S. dollar with gold. Text Knowles, KNWLES, to 989898. Birch Gold will help you convert an old IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold for no money out of pocket. Right now, qualifying purchases will get a limited edition Golden Truth Bomb. Text Knowles, KNWLES, to 989898. That is Knowles to 989898. I want to bring in my producers, Mr. Ben Davies and the young Markella. Gentleman and lady, I hate to say, I could go through this. We'd be here for hours. There's so many picks. There's Tucker, Don Jr. Actually, Mike Pence has a better chance, according to Vegas, than Tucker. Tucker's got a better chance than Don Jr. 2 down from Don Jr. is Ivanka. And all of those guys are above Ron DeSantis. That's pretty amazing. Then you get down a little bit further. Kristi Noem, she's going to lose the dog constituency. Don't send her out to campaign with the canines. Eric Trump, Jim Jordan. Okay, now we're getting into Candace is on there. Tommy Tuberville. Hey, Ben Sass is what? Romney, I don't think so. Paul Ryan, I don't think so.
I think the only reason you're not actually ahead of Mike Pence is because you're not of the age where you could be vice president.
Yeah,
you would be on the list.
Thank you for your confidence. It is true that I am constitutionally ineligible. All of the people on this list are over 35. I appreciate that. What's most shocking to me here, though maybe it shouldn't be, is the last person on the list below Romney, below Paul Ryan,
Below Kanye West.
Below Kanye West and all the Herschel Walker, Chris Christie, is Ted Cruz, is the last person in the Vegas odds. Now, I guess he actually has the same odds as pretty much all those guys. So maybe they put him down there just because it's alphabetical and it ends with T. But I guess I shouldn't be that surprised by that because even though Senator Cruz has had a great relationship with Trump, throughout the White House, they did run a pretty bruising primary against each other in 2016.
He is choking like a dog because he's losing so badly. We have to put him away tomorrow.
This man is a pathological liar, a narcissist at a level I don't think this country's ever seen.
I don't think the senator has shown any desire to be vice president, really, for anyone. And I wouldn't be offended if I were him. But it is amazing some of the people who crop up ahead of people who would do very well in that job. So I don't know, who's your favorite? Who do you think it's going to be, and who should it be?
I think this list is fascinating. It's also really encouraging because the Democrats always talk about how their bench is so thin. There's like no one else they could throw in for like any of these positions. And I like so many of these names, and clearly they're like kind of bunched up after Burgum. It's really cool to see what kind of lineup the Republicans have here. A lot of great people potentially setting up for that 2028. All those different decisions being made. I think actually what is most likely for Trump right now, and I know you said there's some stuff you'd have to do with the states, but I think Marco Rubio is the most likely. And I'll tell you why. Because he does kind of get that middle of the road base. He's got the name too. He's like the Republicans who are like, I'm not that kind of Republican. Marco Rubio, I think, can step into that. Also, you didn't mention this. Marco Rubio can check a box as being a minority person. Like, I think that is going to be a big pull, right? And he's totally establishment. I think he's just a safe pick, and he is fourth, even though they're from the same state. So I think the fact that the Florida conflict right now on paper is an issue, I think Marco is the guy. You mentioned with Ted Cruz, they had a kind of a brutal primary, obviously. With Marco, calling him Little Marco and all the names he called him back in the day. He's not Little Marco anymore. Now, he is a young guy still. I mean, he's early 40s. He was like Little Marco back in the day, but now he really is a guy he can stand next to Trump. I think he is going to be the pick. We'll find out shortly.
You taking money from the Rubio campaign? What's going on over here? I agree with a lot of your analysis. And also because Rubio got out of that 16 race earlier. So he and Trump kind of bickered back and forth. But, with someone like Senator Cruz, I mean, he was the number two guy. He was in it, for all intents and purposes until the very end. And also because, Senator Cruz is up for re-election this year in Texas. I don't think he's not up for re-election, right? So this would be a better window to do it. And I guess you're right. Even though Trump's being prosecuted in New York, what are they going to do? They're going to throw him in jail again? Like, they're already kind of going after him so hard. Maybe it's worth it for him. So, okay, you think that's the one it will be, or that's the one it should be?
I think that's who most likely Trump will pick. Now,
okay, who do you think it should be?
I think the dark horse who he should pick, and it's a little further down the list at number 33, but I think Marsha Blackburn is actually who he should pick as his dark horse candidate. I know you don't want to play the identity politics, but she is a woman. She's an established, been working in the Congress since 2003. She's also very based on a lot of issues. Actually, GovTrack in 2019 had her as the most conservative member of the Senate, which is pretty wild. She's very based on climate change. She debated Bill Nye, and it's like all a hoax. This is ridiculous. I love that. On gay marriage, she said that despite this decision, no one can overrule the truth about what marriage actually is, a sacred institution between a man and a woman. She's very based on gay marriage. She's also was the person that confronted Ketanji Jackson about what is a woman. She's very based on
that's right.
Sexual
I
confusion.
forget. Yeah.
Oh, and then just one more point about the cultural too, because a lot of people think, okay, she's older. She's been in the Senate and the Congress for a long time. She's in the culture because she had that massive spat with Taylor Swift. So I think having all those things together, she checks a lot of boxes, and I think she would actually be the good dark horse candidate for Trump.
Marsha would be great. She would be great. Our own senator from Tennessee. Okay. Markella, you've got your finger on the pulse much more than that old fogey sitting next to you, or perhaps even me, though I'm spiritually a Zoomer. So who do you think it's going to be, and who do you think it should be?
Who I think I need to preface by saying I am not a betting woman. I don't bet. I like a good trad wife. I
Mm-hmm.
listen to my husband, and he tells me all the information that I need to know. He is a betting man.
He places the bets.
Yes.
Yes.
So he told me he thinks it's going to be J.D. Vance because he is the attractive candidate compared to who I think it should be, which is Vivek. I think the obvious choice of should be is Vivek. I think that he is, without a doubt, the most conservative and based candidate there is. However, I don't think people are going to go for him. I think they're most likely going to go for J.D. Vance. I think Trump is more likely going to go for J.D. Vance.
Okay, I agree with the likely pick. I think J.D. is the likely pick. Now, I don't know. If it were even Burgum tomorrow, I wouldn't be that surprised. If it were Ben Carson, I'd be slightly surprised, but I'd be quite happy about it. If it were Rubio, I wouldn't be surprised. Tim Scott, I wouldn't be that surprised. Once you get down past the top 5, I would start to get a little bit surprised. I still think it's probably Vance because my bet is Trump goes for legacy, not just a wallflower. I don't think he's term limited. It's one. I think he wants a guy in there who, one, the libs don't want to be president, so it's a little bit of protection for Trump. And JD is more right-wing than a lot of people on this list. He's young, he's vigorous, he's smart. So maybe that's a little bit of protection for him. But 2, he could take it over in 2028. And I think Trump likes it. I think he likes the idea of building a legacy. He comes from a family business. He's helped build his children into important figures in their own right, bring them into not only the family business, the Trump org, but also into the White House. So, some people are very selfish. They just want to have their own career and forget about posterity. But I don't think that's Trump. And so that's why I think the older guys or the wallflowers are a little bit less likely. Sarah Sanders is a really interesting pick. Because Trump loves surprise. Trump he's the consummate showman, and Sarah Sanders also could take over. I think a lot of conservatives would be thrilled if Sarah Sanders were the president after Trump. And she's very competent, governor of a state, very good at communicating. The job of a VP is really to communicate, to go out there, raise money, defend your president, be a bulldog. She's already done that, and that was her actual job description. So. She to me is the dark horse pick, actually. Who do I want it to be? I like a ton of people on this list. I am personal friends with actually a fair number of people on this list. So I think the only fair way for me to pick who I think it should be is to say Ted Cruz so that I can do another Verdict podcast at the White House. That's really my main concern. Forget about any other things. Obviously a lot of intelligent people, incompetent, whatever. I think it would be fun to do another Verdict podcast at the White House. So
I love that dark horse pick too. Sarah Sanders would have been my second one behind Marsha. I think she's definitely keyed up. I think made some great points on Sarah Sanders, and she'd be great if she could do that. If she could stand up there and defend Trump all day, every day, like we saw her do. She could definitely do it as VP. That'd be a great pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other dark horses you see coming? Markella, you didn't give us a dark horse pick. You picked Vivek again.
Vivek.
Yeah.
All the reasons you say it should be Vivek is sort of like I'm agreeing with you. The guy's a superstar. He's extraordinarily intelligent, very successful. So I just think I don't know that that's necessarily what Trump goes for in a VP, but that'd be cool. It'd be cool, certainly. But who's the dark horse?
I'm just blown away that Ted Cruz falls behind Kanye West, Mitt Romney, Kristi Noem after the dog thing. I can't believe he's that far down on this list, at least.
Well, the thing you have to remember,
there,
the thing, it's kind of funny to think of it that way, but they all have the same odds. They're all, what is it,
right.
plus?
It's all 1 in a million at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all 99,900. So
true.
I couldn't sell you Rubio over Vance, but let me give you like a wild card and see if I can convince you that this may be a good idea for Trump, right?
Okay.
I think if you're going to completely just throw the odds out, burn the sheet of paper, we're going to just shake it up in the country, get a guy that's got a lot of energy in there. I think Trump should go after Matthew McConaughey, try to get him on the ticket. Hear me out, Michael. He's got name recognition. He's already teased up running for governor. He's talked about being president. He looks the part. He's like a cooler version of George W. Bush. I think if you could actually get Matthew McConaughey on there, then we'd see a really interesting election.
Isn't he like a big lib, though?
Yes, he would get that center of the road. Oh, he said he's not far right.
That's true. He's not a far leftist. He's
so
kind of okay.
You get those squishy libs, those squishy conservatives in the middle. It's like, hey, like, all right, we're going to make America great and make it equitable. You know, that kind of thing. I think that would actually move the needle.
Okay, then in that case, I endorse Dennis Quaid because Dennis Quaid plays Ronald Reagan in the new Reagan movie, and so that would be cool. Look at that, you get Trump and Reagan in the same administration. Why not? Your idle, ridiculous speculation on Matthew McConaughey is only like 0.5% crazier than all the other idle speculation because no one really has an idea what Trump is going to do. But
you also, for women voting, how attractive the options are is a factor for women, which is unfortunate.
So who's the most attractive on the list? On the top of the list?
You're
on the feeling top that of the Bergamentum, huh?
I feel on the spot. I feel like I'm not allowed to say it, but
say it. I don't want to pressure you, but don't.
Top of the list. So top 5, I would say for women, Marco Rubio. Top 6, I'd say Vivek.
Vivek, okay. But wow. I'm sensing a lot of affection for Vivek Ramaswamy from my associate producer.
They're out there in force.
But you know what?
What are the Rubio fans called?
Rubies? I don't know.
I don't know. The Marco, I don't.
Marco Mommies?
Marco Mommies.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But if Ben gets to play Matthew McConaughey, I just want to say, because Michael, you'll agree with this wild card pick more than any of the other ones. He's not Catholic, but he's up there. Mari Emanuel, who was stabbed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't he like a Syrian Australian or something?
Assyrian, yeah.
Yeah. But he's in Australia.
But he's Orthodox, and he could be a wild card pick.
That would be a real wild card pick. He's over 35. There is that issue of him not being an American citizen.
Things can change.
But
we need more Orthodox representation.
He could lock in that 1% Orthodox vote across the country.
Just to remind you both, what would have to change is the circumstances of his birth. But who knows? Maybe. It's more likely than a lot of people on this list. Okay, well, thank you for your generally unimpressive and ridiculous thoughts on this. But that's to Ben, of course. And Markella, thank you for your typical brilliance and Zoomer insight. And thank you to all of you who have tuned in. Please tweet at me, tell me your picks, because you have exactly as much information and expertise in this question as any of us do, any of the rest of us. See you soon.